I'll digress for a second and just say that the area of Oudtshoorn is my favorite area to explain. It was one of the areas we spent a lot of time on examining, understanding, because we met this interface of politics and non-delivery at its very core. Here you have a municipality who spends 30% on salaries. That is huge. And the question is why? The why part is because it is a coalition, and the coalition sits down and says, we are going to give the ANC X number of people to work in the municipality. The DA will get X number of people, the PA will get X number of people, and the concerned group will get X number of people. So they make an agreement, each political party, how many people will work in that municipality. And that does not mean that you have competent people working in that municipality. That simply means that you have divided the municipality up into a job creation enterprise. So we need to say very directly that the renewal part of what we want with local government has many elements in it. We started by having a new process for selecting our ward councillors. That process was not a very popular process. I think we must say that here. It was tough because all of a sudden you were challenging the core basis of where decisions are made in the ANC, and that is in the branch of the ANC, and so it should be. But we said that the branch of the ANC has to have the perspective of being a leader of society and must be able to take society into confidence and allow the people in the ward to choose their own councillors. Yes, you may select 3 people that you want from the ANC, but if the community says no to any or all of those 3, you're going to have to live with it. Because a councillor is a representative of the people in a broad community. It's not a representative of the membership of the ANC. Oh, Andres is saying, please can you remove your mask? Well, I was scared to do that because, then there's a message on the TV that says people are there without masks and it's not our fault. So I didn't want it to be anybody's fault. Okay, so the reality then is that the community chooses a ward councillor. What does that imply, and why an oath for that ward councillor? That ward councillor's oath is saying, I will ensure that services to my area are going to be provided. But what does that mean? It means a person with the capability of fighting in the council for the road in a ward that has not been repaired, for fighting for the water in an area I was in yesterday, where there's an area where there hasn't been water for a few weeks now. But and the answer is logical but unacceptable. The logic of the answer is that we get our water from boreholes, and when there's no electricity, then the pumps don't work. That is obviously logical, but it's a problem. What is the solution to that? Has that councillor sat down? Have they called ESCOM? Those were the hundreds of questions I was asking, and I thought the poor councillor was going to just say, go away, go far, far away and never come back here. But the issue is, it is the councillor who must fight for the people in the council. It is not the executive who on their own make those heady decisions about what development comes to that council. It is the councillor and the IDPs that determine what would be the biggest priorities in a council. So we need good people to do that, and we need competence. So what is competence? We're not saying that councillors must have 10 degrees. A degree is, of course, a very useful thing to have, but must have the experience to carry forward what the community needs in service delivery. And secondly, must have the courage to stand up very firmly and fight for the rights of that community. So the oath is an important element, but the oath also goes with agility. That councillor must also be able to understand that the resources have to be shared in a very big area, and so must have the honesty and the integrity to go back to the community and explain our road will only come in 3 years' time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And secondly, must not be the representative of a business entity who wants to build that road, but must also understand that anybody in the community with the competence is able to compete for that road. So the barometer, and as Joan Chitenze says, there's a number of elements in this barometer, and I think it will grow as we go along. But we have already done so much work. We met with all the ANC members responsible for energy, and I'm putting it that way. They are elected, yes, but they are also ANC members. Our critical question was, how do we resolve the Eskom problem? And the answer that we got was clear. If you look at Soweto, where you have over 2,000 units that supply electricity, and of those, some 109 substations were not functional. Now they are down to 33. That means work has been done. And the point is that we don't recognize that work has been done. Why? Because where those 33 little substations have not yet been fixed, people don't have electricity and they're not ready to hear anything more. But on top of that is the huge debt burden that all the municipalities have towards Eskom, where they're not able to collect enough money to pay for that electricity. So what do we need? We also need mayors. And that's the next point I'd like to make. We're going to be interviewing people who will be the next group of mayors where ANC wins a municipality. And why are we going to interview? Is to look at the competence and experience of a person who can manage and be in an executive authority position that understands what the job is. It's a whole range of issues. It is also the ability to call a director or call the municipal manager and say the waste that is being dumped in opposite people's houses is causing disease. When will that be fixed? It is knowing that there's a broken pipe, but not waiting for 3 years to fix that pipe. It's finding a way to fix that pipe out of the budget that you have. Because if you don't fix that pipe and it goes on for another 3 years, all you're doing is you're actually denying people a right to access to a particular service. And it is making those connections. So we're looking for seriously experienced people, and we're also looking for people with some smarts in finance and in executive management. I also want to say that our commitment is renewal and revitalization of our society. We've begun by looking at a different way of selecting people. But, you know, I do want to say, obviously, that everybody will be interviewed and subjected to background checks and sign performance agreements against which they will be held accountable. And that is why we need this barometer. We'll meet every 3 months, and we will make sure that we measure people according to what they had offered to deliver. And where does that come from? It will come from when the municipalities, when you publish your next budget, we're going to look at your budget and say, okay, so how are we going to measure this mayor against that budget? How did she perform? You know, and so on. And Tembi will remember when I did a session with her and I said, when will you take this city into a metro? Her eyes are big by nature, but they went very big. And she said, where will we get the resources from? The point is that you do not attract investment if you cannot provide reliable water services and reliable electricity services, and good roads for the product to reach its market. 3 things. And also a good relationship with your labor force in the municipality is vitally important. We also need people who are going to be able to understand that you must respect the labor laws as well. And you can't just say, well, you know, SAMU is part of COSATU, we allies, SAMU people must just fall in line. We don't fall in line. There are labor laws. So what we're really working towards is formality. Formality in terms of acceptance of the laws that govern local government at one level, but also integrity at the level of being an ANC cadre that must perform in a particular way. Without the ANC cadre itself becoming a problem and simply a proxy for gangs or whatever it is that might be coming our way. I wanted to say that we are cognizant that incidences of criminal activities and corruption practices are too prevalent in our society. And our manifesto spells out zero tolerance to those iniquities. So what we're doing now, we actually monitor what is still outstanding in municipalities in terms of pending cases that must be dealt with for 2021. So we now know we've got to keep our eye on those particular areas and make sure that the same problem never reoccurs, where it might have recurred before. Whatever it is that might have caused a criminal activity to take place on. What I would like to say to you is that please accept and understand that we will not step away from our commitment to transforming our society in totality. And that means that we are the spatial development difficulties that we have, where you still have the way in which where people veer to and where they spend their money to, you then see that ANC-led, we lead the poorest of the poor, and we service the poorest of the poor. We are not servicing the wealthy, well-heeled communities in our society. That must change. That must change. So that what can happen is that we can all develop at a particular rate and not have to develop at the 2 separate rates that we are at the moment. We have a Sandton city, beautiful, very smart, and so on. Everything is well looked after, and the inner city of Johannesburg continues to degrade and degrade because there simply is no money to keep it up and keep it going. I think that where we are now is to say to you and to say to ourselves, we should not write off what we've achieved so easily. We've done a lot of good work. In the 33 municipalities where things have gone wrong, we must focus and concentrate on fixing those things. But in the areas where we've done well, like Ekurhuleni, like Sangu, like where you come from, let's do better than where we come from. It cannot just be, we must never be happy with mediocrity or just enough. Just enough is not enough. We must have excellent local municipalities, so that if we have excellent local municipalities, our people's lives will begin to change for the better. We do want to attract a good investment into our country, but we also want to see a concomitant change in the upstreaming of everything that happens. Local economies must be given a chance to exist. And they're only going to be able to exist if the local authority is doing a good job and is able to. Yesterday I was asked in this community where I was, Comrade Phoebe, can we please have a mall? And I immediately said, no, you know what? Malls take money out of your community. Why don't you have local grocer, butcher, baker, etc., and shop from them? Let's not go for the it doesn't help a community to have a big mall. All it is a short-term convenience, but long-term it gives you nothing back. Well, it gives a tax to the national fiscus, but not to the local economy. So what we want to do with this barometer is that we want to see that we push hard for well-managed local governance, that we push hard for excellent service delivery, not just gewone service delivery. It must be the best. That we push hard for, that we take council business very seriously, and we really deepen a culture of accountability to the people. If you're a councillor, your first line of accountability is to the people who elected you to be a councillor. And secondly, you must please adhere to the principles and values of the African National Congress. If you are an ANC councillor, you can't avoid the ANC. And we will insist that you do so. So we can do more, and we should have done more. We know that. The ANC remains committed to do more and better in the period ahead, and we believe that we have the talent and the commitment of people in the ANC who are able to rise to that level, and we will make sure that they do. We look forward to ongoing engagements with regard to local government as our constitutional democracy continues to mature, and we hope to see all of you again in 3 months' time when we report to you on how we have been able to bring back reports from the barometer itself. Thank you very much, Chair of the session.
And thank you very, very much, Deputy Secretary General, for, I think, very, very clearly linking the overall work of the ANC in terms of renewing itself and its approach to local government through the selection of candidates, through the selection of mayors, through putting in place mechanisms of accountability, linking all of those steps to this local government barometer. Ladies and gentlemen, we now open for a question and answer session, both for those present here as well as those online. I will recognize you if you could quickly, briefly state your name and your publication and pose your question, which we will field to members of the panel here and online. I have 1, 2, 3. My apologies, I cannot recognize you behind your masks. Okay. 2, 3. I think there is a roving mic.
Left town because must I try that one? Oh, okay. I must have tried both. Okay. The last doctor left town because their sonar machine burnt out a third time after an electricity surge because the municipality was managing electricity badly. So that's businesses that have left town and that won't come back very easily, very quickly. And meanwhile, people who work at those businesses don't have jobs. How do you reverse that kind of decline that comes from poor government? It's in the Twying municipality, and we all know what happened there a few weeks ago with the dissolution. And my second question is, we've seen infighting in the ANC for positions, what do you call it, ward positions. And we've seen the ANC has set up a schedule for by-elections following these elections to fix those problems. So we have this barometer and we have these nice plans, but how long will it take for the ANC to get these plans in place if we're going to have by-elections? And it seems like we might have a longer election season than we're bargaining for. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
CD Madia from Eyewitness News. Just two very quick questions. Yes, you talk a very tough game on what to expect from your councillors. The same party, your governing party, had, I think, performance agreements with the ministers that took a really long time to get to the point where they signed off. What guarantee do we have that in 3 months' time what you're looking for from the councillors would have been done on the part of the ANC, that is? They might have been forced to wait on the party. So what guarantee do you have that you'll do what you're saying you'll do to make sure they're able to be at least held up to that barometer, measured to that barometer? The second question is around coalitions. I think it was Professor Fissa who said it's something that you must have. It's a conversation that must be had. On the panel there, you've got a mayor who wrote a book about coalitions. What is the conversation that the ANC is having? What are you looking for? And what are your no-go areas? Has the ANC had the conversation about what it's willing to do?